Hey everyone, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. Today I'm going to show you guys a cool little trick on how to catch and save your sawdust when you're processing fatwood, what I call fire dust, and use that to get your fire going. So when I'm out here and I've picked a place out that I want to set up camp, maybe it's just a temporary camp, I'm out here possibly on my mountain bike and just want to set up my tarp, maybe make a little fire, or whether it be, a big elaborate bushcraft camp where I'm going to stay a few days. Either way, one of the first things I do is I go on a resource walk. I want to know what resources are around me, as far as wild edible plants, as far as tinder, firewood, and of course, probably the first thing my eyes are going to be looking for is fatwood. So when I go on a resource walk, I always have some things that I will have with me regardless. Usually I'll have a little shoulder bag of some sort. I might be gathering some wild edibles, stinging nettle leaves. I like to use them in stews and soups, and so I'll have me a little shoulder bag. And then I will also have certain tools that will be going with me. My small bushcraft knife, my Baco saw, and either my Grand Swartzberg hatchet or a large knife, like today, my Essie Unglas 2. In my pockets, I've got a ferro rod, I've got wind waterproof matches, and I always have with me in my pocket a bandana. And that's what we're going to be using for this little trick today. So before we go on our resource walk, I'm going to show you how to do this. All you need is your bandana and two small pieces of wood, two limbs basically. And you're going to tie each one of your corners to one of these small limbs. I got 3 of my corners done up. So I'll take my last corner here and just fold that over, wind that around itself a couple times to make it easier to tie. And then I'm just going to do a simple overhand knot. That's it. So what I've made basically is like a little trough or a bucket, a bowl, whatever you want to call it, that when we find some fatwood, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, this is going to catch all of our sawdust so that nothing goes to waste as we're processing fatwood, and then we'll use that sawdust as a fire starting source. So let's go on a resource walk. I'll show you guys a little area I'm in and what we're looking for in finding some fatwood. Okay, so what I want is old blowdowns. So when a tree dies, falls, the wind blows it over, or dies and falls over, all that resin, all that pitch, which is the lifeblood of the tree, begins to flow backwards, and it flows into the roots. And so all that resin that was in the tree now gathers in the roots. And so the roots become a rich source of fatwood. And here's a perfect example right over here. The fact is, I already cut a couple pieces off earlier to use for a fire. But I can tell you that this remains of what looks like an old rotted root wad, and that's what it is. You're looking for the root wad on the back of this old blowdown. Literally contains hundreds of pounds of resin. I want to show you. I sawed a piece off here earlier, right here. And if you see those dark spots in there, all that dark, that's solid pitch or resin. This thing is loaded. So let me get you guys set up here. Okay, before we put our little trick to work, let's talk a little bit about this root wad. How do I know that this old root wad is filled with hundreds of pounds of pitch just by looking at it, basically? And in all honesty, I have yet to come to a root wad that doesn't have pitch or resin out here in at least some of the roots. But here's the little trick. Here's how you tell, and it's not really by looking, it's by feeling. See, this looks like an old rotted piece of wood that would easily break off, but it's as solid as a rock. I can't make it crack. I can't make it budge. If this was just rotted wood, like this piece up here, see this piece here, see that? I just a light pull on it because all of the pitch in it has dried up. And once that pitch has dried up, it just becomes an old piece of rotted wood. Still good for burning, but not so great for fire starting. But see now, like this piece here, see that? I can't make it crack. I can't make it pop. And I literally can't break it or hardly move it. It's because it's loaded with pitch and resin. And when you come to an old root wad like this from a blowdown, and you start pounding and kicking some of these roots sticking out, and you can't budge them because they're literally just rock solid, it's because they're loaded with resin. So let's set up our little trick here. Okay. Basically, I've made, like I said, a dish, a cup, a trough, whatever you want to call it. And I will put one end up over a piece like this right here. And now there's a trough right here. And I'm going to just take my saw and maybe I'm going to cut off a piece of fatwood here to go use for fire. Well, nothing's going to go to waste. Only thing I need to make sure is that I don't saw my bandana in two. So just start sawing. Show you guys all that resinous sawdust is all being saved in my bandana. Nothing's going to waste. Boy, that's loaded. I'm getting a lot out of there. Wow, that's thick too. So you guys can see me okay, yeah. Okay, I'll show you guys this. Look at that. Solid pitch, solid resin. Oh, wow. And the second you start sawing into this stuff, you'll smell that resin. That odor will release, and you'll never forget it. You'll always know. Every time you're cutting into a piece of wood that has resin in it, fat wood, you'll always know that smell. So this thing right here, just this one piece thrown into the fire, will burn hot. It will burn for a long time, and we're going to save that. I'm just going to set it here for now. So what we're going to do is go over here to a stump, and all that sawdust. Look at that. All that fire dust, that's what I like to call it, got saved. Nothing went to waste. It's all here in the bandana. We're going to go throw some sparks into that and see how easy that ignites. Okay, I got my bandana with all of that fire dust in it. I'm going to go ahead and make a pile on this stump. I got a wind blowing across here, so I might try to sit off to the side and block some of that wind. Yeah, so I would take all of this back to camp, and I would make some shavings and curls, or just gather up a bunch of little sticks, whatever I decided I wanted to do, and I would put all of this dust, sawdust, fire dust from Fatwood in there, and use that. Look at that. Okay, I've got ferro rod here, and I'm going to use a saw on my Leatherman. I really like the way that makes sparks. I'll spread this out a little bit. I want to make sure you guys can see. And we'll just throw some sparks right in there. Here we go, the wind blew it out. So I gotta get up here and try to block that wind. Had it going. Here we go. Yep, there we go, let it take. So all of that sawdust, fire dust if you will, that would have gone to waste, it would have just ended up being left on the ground. I saved that in my bandana. I would have brought that back over to camp, and like I said, had some little twigs and whatnot and used that to get my fire going. All right, let me get that out. I'm not going to do a fire right here today. All right, I'll pour some water down there before I leave. Make sure it's all out really good. Okay, so get you guys up where you can see a little bit. Again, just using your bandana, something that should always be in your pocket anyway. Anytime you find a piece of Fatwood and you want to carve shavings, or maybe you find some dry moss or some other good source of tinder, your bandana, and you've seen me in other videos, is the perfect place. It's the perfect place to, put your tinder, whatever other things you gather, tie it up, shove it in your pocket, or just carry it back to camp and have that resource. But as I just showed you, a really cool way to catch your sawdust shavings from a piece of Fatwood and take that dust back to camp and use it to get your fire going. Just a cool little trick. Thanks for watching Ocho Bushcraft.